Hello everyone. Thanks for joining us for another Ask Career Studio session. My name's Joan, pronouns are she and her, and I'm a student recruitment officer here at Memorial University. I also was a student here. I did my undergrad and graduate degrees at MUN as well, so I studied psych and counseling psychology. And today, joining with me, I have Julie Kavanagh from the Department of Student Life and Career Development. So before we get started, I just have a couple of housekeeping items that I'd like to go over. So first off, this session's being recorded. So that means that if you are participating, you're consenting to that. Your mics are muted and your camera's turned off. This is just to help facilitate the session and decrease our bandwidth. But if you have questions, certainly put them in the chat. Make sure you're using the chat to everybody function of WebEx so that we can all see your questions and get those answered. And if you do have a question today that we don't end up getting to during the session, we do have other staff on the call today who are monitoring that and can get directly in touch with you, so don't worry. Awesome. Now that we have all that out of the way, let's get us started with Julie. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your role in student life?
I would love to. Thanks for that, Joan, and nice to see you. Joan actually is one of our former students in student life, so it's always nice to reconnect with people, especially this crazy time. So my name is Julie Kavanagh, and I'm the acting manager with Career Development right now, which is an area of under student life. I've been with the department for about 8 years, I believe, and in the acting manager role for the past year. And what we do in career development is we try to connect students with opportunities and resources and experiences that can build their own self-awareness and connect them with employers and things like that, and work experiences that can really help them reach their own career and employment goals and help them with their career planning. So there's lots of ways that we do that. Career advising through one-on-one appointments is one way. We have a lot of career advisors all across campus, and we are still here supporting students virtually. So we have several career advisors within our area in career, as well as some faculty-specific career advisors as well. So we have one in science and one in HSS, as well as grad studies. So that's just one way. There's lots of others. I know we're here to talk about employment. So certainly that's a huge way that we work with students to help them grow their own self-awareness about what kinds of work they like to do or pursue, to build up their own work experience for their resume and connect them with employers. So yeah, happy to be here and answer any questions that you all will have.
Great. We really appreciate the work that you folks do. And it's really nice to see you two again and in the manager role this time.
Yeah.
So we just had a question come in about how somebody can get in touch with a career advisor. Do you know how you would set up an appointment?
Absolutely. So our appointments can be booked through the Navigate for Students app. All of the different appointment types are there. So whether it's you're looking for a resume critique or a practice mock interview or just general career exploration, there's several different employment types. All are listed there within the app. And yeah, so if you just download the app and go through the different steps to book an appointment with an advisor, then you'll easily come across that. But certainly if you have questions or difficulties finding that, just pop us an email at careerdevelopment@mun.ca and we'll be able to help you out with that. And I can pop the link to that in the chat if that's helpful, about how to download the app.
Awesome. Yeah, that's for sure. Always a good bet to set up an advisor appointment and get that one-on-one advice.
Absolutely.
So a student is wondering, they have interest in pursuing a Bachelor of Arts, but they're not sure what kind of job that they can get at the end. They're wondering, what kind of advice do you have?
Well, the advice I would have is first of all, that the opportunities of the kinds of jobs you can get with not just a Bachelor of Arts, but any degree are really endless. You're developing all kinds of skills and competencies and experiences as you're going through your time at university. including that you're doing within your courses and within your program. So there's really unlimited possibilities. There are lots of different jobs out there. There's not one job in particular that matches your degree as a Bachelor of Arts grad. So what I would encourage you to do is, again, use that appointment type that I mentioned. Just maybe do a career exploration appointment and chat with one of our career advisors, in particular, Andrea Keating, who is the advisor in HSS, and chat with her about the kinds of things that you're interested in, what you like to do, what your goals and values are, and we'll be able to help you out and walk you through what kinds of options there may be out there for you. But definitely the sky is the limit for sure.
Definitely something you can make anything out of if you
absolutely, and you can always change your mind. That's okay too. You might go down one career path and then find that a year or 2 or 5 or 10 years later, you're looking to change directions, and your degree is really versatile. So that's the really nice thing about especially a Bachelor of Arts degree, but really any degree is versatile and can take you in a number of different directions. But certainly talk to somebody is the biggest piece of advice I would give for that question. If you're not sure what you want to do, just talk to a career advisor.
Awesome. And that's a great segue into our next question. A student is coming in for their first time in the fall, and they're wondering what kind of jobs they can get on campus. Is there jobs relevant to people's degrees that they're able to access on campus?
So that is definitely a great segue. First of all, welcome. We're delighted to have you back, not back with us, but here with us for the first time. And if there's any returning students on this live, then welcome to everybody. It's certainly an interesting time. And even though it's certainly probably not the first semester that you expected, I just want to reassure you that there are still employment opportunities available. So even though we're not on campus physically, there are still jobs. And so 2 of the big programs that we facilitate in career development are the ISWEP and MUSEP programs. So those are what would typically be on-campus employment, although we're not physically on campus. There are certainly still campus opportunities. And even for first-year students, there is a lot of jobs out there across the entire institution. So there are faculty and school-specific job opportunities, as well as more administrative. In any real office on campus you can think of, there are job opportunities within MUSEP and ISWEP. And I think the number of jobs that are going to be posted this coming Friday is just shy of 400. So it's almost 400 jobs that you can apply for. Any number of them, you can apply for all of them if you like. But those opportunities are definitely available to you as a first-year student as well. So I'll be chatting more about that, I'm sure, as the questions come in. But I'll also pop the link again in the chat there for how you would access those jobs. It's all done through your MyMon Life, and they're going live this Friday at 5 p.m. And they'll be posted for a week. So they'll be posted from this Friday at 5 o'clock until next Friday at 12 noon.
And that's all through MyMon Life, you mentioned.
All through MyMon Life, yeah. So you just log in and follow along the little steps there. But again, I'll pop that in the chat so you guys can have a look at it. And I see someone else I think is monitoring the chat too, so perhaps they'll beat me to it. But all done through MyMon Life, including viewing the jobs and applying for the jobs as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We do have someone monitoring the chat, so they'll pop that in there for you for sure.
Great. Excellent.
Awesome. Well, when I was a student myself, I had a whole bunch of different jobs on campus, and one of them was working directly in career development, and I really enjoyed that work. So there's something that is fitted for everyone, really. I did a Bachelor of Science and majored in psych, and the things that you can do with that degree that are different than what you may think is just, there's possibilities are endless. So you can really make what you want out of your experience at Memorial for sure.
Absolutely.
A student who says they're an international student is wondering if they can get help with their resume because they've never made one for job markets here. Is that something you guys can support?
Of course, yes. Yay, that is exactly what we are here to do. So we would be happy to meet with you, help you with your resume. I would encourage you, so another thing, if whoever's monitoring the chat can find it, is our resume and cover letter guide is on the Student Life website. So I would start perusing that, taking a look through that guide, try to get something mocked up in terms of even just a starting point. Like, it's okay if you're not really sure what to put in there, but just kind of have a look at it and get something started. And then book an appointment, like I said, with a career advisor for a resume appointment. And they can walk you through it. There is also the option, just as a little side note, you can always have your resume critiqued by sending it to the careerdevelopment@mon.ca email address. But if you're, like you said, you're not really sure about the job market here, it's your first time creating a resume for the Canadian job market, then I would encourage you to book an appointment rather than just send along your resume, because then you can talk through with an advisor the kinds of experiences you've had. If you're not really sure how to describe them and what type of wording to use, then they can help walk you through that. But for sure, we can absolutely help you with a resume and cover letter for applying for jobs. Absolutely.
Awesome. And just a reminder, folks, for those who are just joining us, you can put your questions in the chat. Welcome that. And if you're wondering what function to use, it's the chat to everybody. So one of our students is asking about how they can best make their application stand out, since COVID-19 has really made our job market super competitive. What can they do to get themselves into that interview setting? Julie?
Biggest piece of advice I would give to set yourself apart right off the bat would be to add a cover letter. So many people still are just sending in their resumes, which for some jobs is fine. But I always like to see a cover letter. I think it does set you apart from the others, and it is your time then to use your own words to describe why you want a particular job, why you'd like to work with a particular employer. And as a little addition to that, not just to submit a cover letter, but submit a different cover letter for each job you're applying for. So don't use a generic cover letter each time. Really tweak it depending on the job that you're applying for and the company it might be, or if it's on campus, the opposite it might be, things like that, and really tailor it for each job. And again, that resume and cover letter guide that was just posted in the chat can walk you through the different parts of a cover letter. It has a sample in there, so if you're really not sure where to start, look at the sample that's there and kind of get a sense of what you can do for that.
Perfect. And I guess to add on to that, somebody's wondering about how much value employers, and is that something that they should really spend any time developing? First, can you tell us a little bit about what LinkedIn is, Julie?
Oh, LinkedIn, sorry, I missed you cut out for a bit there. So LinkedIn, yes. Definitely I would invest some time in creating a LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn it's an online, sort of like a social media platform, but it's really to establish your professional presence. It's comparable to, I guess, an online version of your resume, but where we would recommend a resume, you'd probably try to keep to 2 pages. LinkedIn might be a bit longer, and there's different sections that we would add additional information to that you wouldn't necessarily add into a resume. But there are millions of employers all over the world on LinkedIn. And so I would definitely encourage you to invest some time, if you don't have a profile already, to go on and create one and start adding to it and keeping it up to date as you're going through your time at Memorial. And we actually in Career Development offer a workshop on creating your LinkedIn profile. And so if you go to the events calendar on the Student Life website, you can see all of our workshops. They take place Wednesdays at 1, starting next week. I believe we're getting going for the fall semester, and LinkedIn is definitely one of them. So you can take a look at that as a starting point as well. And then second to that, again, you can also meet with a career advisor who can walk you through a little more specifically, if you'd rather, on your own profile, and they can go through that with you once you have it created.
Awesome. And I know a lot of the services that we have had available in the past have now moved online. So one of our students is wondering, are you offering mock interviews on the online platform?
Absolutely. So any appointment that you would make through that Navigate for Students app, they're all done virtually. And so we're still doing the virtual mock interviews, same as we would in person. And so we will, essentially it's treated like a regular interview. We'll ask you a series of it's like generic interview questions, common interview questions, common interview questions that you would likely see in an interview at some point along the way, and we'll go through those in order, let you answer all the questions just like it was a regular interview, and then at the end you would get feedback from us on your responses, so you can have a better sense of how you might frame a similar answer later in an actual interview. But absolutely, we're still doing those while we're gone remote.
Fair enough. And that's a really great way to get the jitters out for sure.
100% recommended. Even though I know a lot of people, I think, are nervous about doing the mock interview, definitely, it's a great way. If you are nervous, do it, because it's a great way, like Joan said, to get those jitters out. Any bit of practice that you can get done before an interview is always going to benefit you for sure.
Awesome. So our next question we have is, how do we build our resume when we don't have any relevant work experience and volunteer experience directly applicable to the job that they want to apply to?
Okay. So what I would encourage you doing, and for a lot of you, if you're just starting out, this is your first year, this is a great chance to start building those experiences and start getting involved, whether it is volunteer or employment, and start building the different experiences for the jobs that you do eventually want to apply for. But think of different things, think of different experiences you've had where you have developed skills. It doesn't necessarily have to be a job. It could be in a classroom. It could be a course that you did. Maybe you developed public speaking skills when you had to do presentations. Or if you had extracurricular activities, include those on your resume. You did sports, teamwork obviously is huge. Perhaps you developed some leadership experience from different extracurricular activities. Or if you've gotten awards for something during your time at school or for another activity or involvement that you have, definitely include those on your resume as well. And like I said, but now is the time then you can start building on your resume. And even if you're not successful in getting an on-campus job this term, there are lots of ways to get involved. Student Life has a lot of areas, including Student Experience Office and the Student Volunteer Bureau, that are always promoting different ways that students can join different events and activities and get involved. And those are all things that you would be able to build your skill sets to include in your resume. Don't give up. That's the main message. Just keep putting yourself out there and trying new things and build up those the skill sets.
Fair enough. And getting engaged and active, whether it be online or what have you, early on in your degree program is so important, just to be able to find your community and your niche, and definitely makes a big difference in terms of building your resume for sure.
Really does. The earlier you get started, really the better. I mean, not that it's ever too late to get started on volunteering and getting involved in on-campus employment or any kind of employment, but certainly the earlier you start thinking about it, the better the benefit will be for sure.
And this is a great transition into our next question. What skills would you suggest new students should have for their on-campus jobs this semester? And will students get some form of training for positions they may obtain?
Well, the skills that you might need, because the jobs are so diverse, the skills you might need are very diverse. But certainly, even though you might not have very technical skills for certain jobs, like I said, there are common things that employers look for, whether they're on-campus employers or out in the public employers, that we hear employers are looking for. So communication skills, interpersonal skills, teamwork, leadership, all kinds of competencies and soft skills that are super important to getting any job, because you might have the technical skills needed for a job. Say it's marketing, for example. You might have marketing experience, but maybe you don't really have a lot of experience, or you're not really great working as part of a team. So, people want to have someone who's going to fit in well with their team. And so I think interpersonal skills are going to be really important as well. And Joan, I forget the second part of that question. If you could just repeat it. I'm not good with multi-part questions, which maybe I need a mock interview to help me train for multi-part questions, because those do come up in mock interviews all the time.
So sorry, no worries at all.
Okay.
Will students get some form of training when they get new positions?
Right. I think that for the most part, any employer who's hiring a student, or anybody really, whether this is an off-campus job or a mixed supervised position, will offer some kind of orientation or training for the student. I think that's very common. But what's super important is that you want to feel like you're best set up for success in any job you're doing. And so if you don't feel like you've had sufficient training or an orientation to the job you're going to be doing, then definitely ask somebody, ask your supervisor, and reach out, ask for clarification, ask questions. Don't be afraid or shy to stand up and ask for that, because you want to make sure that you're doing the job well and that you're meeting those expectations. So certainly most, I think, do provide that on some level, but if you feel like you need more or something's not clear, definitely voice that and ask for help.
For sure. And that kind of translates to your entire university experience. Being able to reach out like that
Absolutely.
and recognizing what your needs are is super important.
Absolutely.
In terms of international students who won't be having a social security number or SIN number this fall, how will the university be able to employ them or pay them if they're working remotely?
So that is one I think I would have to follow up on. I know you would need to have your valid work permit and things set up for on-campus employment as well. So that's a great question, and I will definitely, I'll follow up on that one. And if we could get, I don't know if there's a way we can get the contact information of the student, then maybe we can reach out separately for that, for sure, because that's certainly a good question. But I do know that you would need to have those things set up, as you said, in the international session yesterday. So I will look into that for you for sure.
Perfect. So add on, if you're monitoring the chat now, can you connect with that student and see if you can get their contact information so we can follow up with them. Awesome. And so folks, just a reminder, if you're joining us just halfway through, if you want to ask any of your questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and make sure they're going to the chat to everybody, because I can't see the ones coming directly into me right now. So make sure you put them in that chat to everyone function. Awesome. So next question is from a student who's wondering how they know the job that they're applying to isn't a scam.
That is an awesome question. So we have a lot of tips that we give you, and I'm actually going to haul up something really quickly, because unfortunately the scam artists, you call them, who are posting jobs that are illegitimate, they're really good at it. And so there are several ways that you can kind of screen jobs that you're applying for to make sure that they are legitimate. Before I go into any of those tips, just to let you know, any of the MUSEP or iSwipe job postings that you'll see for our job board are absolutely, they're legitimate jobs. They're internal. They're not going to be scam jobs. For anything you might see on another job board, including the career development job board for external job postings, while we do monitor them, it is, the student's responsibility to also do the screening, because unfortunately, a second set of eyes is always helpful, because there are really, really experienced scam artists out there. So do your own research. But some tips that you can use would be never, never, never send any kind of banking information or credit card details or personal information, like a social security number or any kind of permit number, to anyone that you don't trust for a job. So of course, after you were offered a job, there would be payroll to set up, and you would need to give them some banking information. but never when you're just applying for a job. That would be a big red flag. Another big one is sending or the fake employer asking you to deposit a check for them and then returning. So you would deposit the fake check into your bank account and withdraw money for them that you would send back to them. But the scam part is that the check actually bounces. And of course, then you are, after withdrawing money from your own account and giving it to somebody through an e-transfer or whatever, but then the check bounces and you are stuck with that fee then at the bank. So never deposit any checks from an employer who wants you to return a certain portion to them. Don't ever pay any upfront fees for anything before you started working, like training or background checks or things like that. Anything that has a really high salary for not a lot of work is usually a good sign that there's something going on there. And also just screening the job ad itself. Look for like spelling errors. If there's something a bit off about an email address, like if you have to do an email to, I don't know, let me say Husky Energy, for example. And if the email was at husky.com, but there was 2 Y's in Husky. Things like that. There's little tricks that they're using to try to make themselves look as legitimate as possible, but there might be something just a little bit off. So just screen the job ads very thoroughly. And if at all possible you're not sure, just email career development. We can help you out, have a look for you. But the general rule of thumb is if an offer or an opportunity seems too good to be true, it probably is. But certainly if you're questioning one, then reach out to us for sure.
That's great. Definitely want to make sure all of those opportunities are legitimate for our
Absolutely,
students.
absolutely. But again, any of those internal ones you see for ISWEP and USIP, they're all good. Don't worry about those.
Awesome. And our last question I think we're going to be taking today is, how do students request for a letter of reference after they complete a job so they can use it in the future?
So to request, first of all, that's a great question. And whether it's a letter of reference or you just want to have a contact for a reference for future resumes, always ask your supervisor or whoever the person is that you would like to list as a reference on your resume. So it's always nice to ask them ahead of time and get their permission to use them as a reference. And then I would just simply be upfront and direct. And once you've gotten their okay to use them as a reference, then ask them directly if they would mind writing you a recommendation letter that you can store in your little portfolio, or if you need it for a job. Certainly, you don't need to do that for every job. If you need one, if a certain job you're applying for requires that kind of detail, you can go back after the fact and request it. So don't feel like you need to request a reference letter for every job you're doing as soon as the job ends. Lots of people who are employing students or other people regularly, it's not a surprise if anyone comes back to them a little bit later, a couple of months later, or even a couple of years later, asking for a reference of that nature. So just be polite, courteous, and ask them for their permission first. And once they're okay with being a reference for you, then you can ask the follow-up question for the reference letter.
Great. And I am mindful of our time, and we're coming to the end of our session today. Julie, do you have any last thoughts for our incoming class here today?
Oh, lots of last minute thoughts. Get involved. Come and see us at Career Development. Even though you can't physically come and see us, we're here for you virtually, whether it's an appointment or events that we're doing. All of our services pretty much are still going on. So come and see us early, and we're here to help you and be another resource for you. So take advantage of it.
Awesome. Come see us and get support. That's great. So thanks so much for joining us today, everybody. If you have any other questions at all, feel free to email us at ask@mun.ca. This certainly isn't the end. We are just at the beginning of our academic journey. So if you have any questions at all of our departments are really welcoming and open to that. Be sure to check out our next session as well on Friday at 2 p.m. Newfoundland time. And take care, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, folks. Bye.